So welcome to the Chuck Close inspired art demo. I'm just going to focus on drawing and trying to do it in a photorealist style using mechanical pencils, graphite pencils, blending sticks. I've got three types of eraser, so a soft eraser and two harder erasers. And I'm going to do a little bit of fingerprinting using my little finger and a bit of black ink. So that's the plan for today. So I'm working on a self-portrait Chuck Close style. So he was famous for his large-scale photorealist work, and the one that kind of sort of set his career on its trajectory was his self-portrait in the 60s, which was done using a spray airbrush. But I'm going to try and capture that same kind of idea, but using graphite pencils. So I'm not going to do a grid. He kind of used a grid technique, but I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do first is take a very soft pencil, so like a 5B, and I'm just going to sharpen it. And I'm going to sort of sketch out very lightly the sort of edges of where the hair is. So and then I'm going to look at the measurements of where each section of the portrait should be placed on the page. So looking at the kind of bottom area where I've got this bit of hair and the sort of edge of the turtleneck, just going to bring this around, so just getting that kind of curve in, and then where the edge of the neck is, and then I can work out. So I'm really going to break it down into shapes. So I'm working out now so the chin coming along here, and this kind of crescent moon shape of the neck. So just working out kind of how that works with the curve. So I've got the curve of the chin coming up, and I'm looking at this shape here, so I'm using negative space to try and work out, get that kind of correct. So that's the first thing I'm doing. And then you've got the kind of curve of the turtleneck coming around. It comes up to here. And then of course there's a straight line. So I'm going to cut it off there because it'll make it easier. So I've got that initial chin drawn in. And then things like looking at, so here the neck intersects the chin. So now I'm looking at this line, kind of curve of that line, how long it is. It's about like that. And what you can do is you can measure that using just your fingers. If you hold your fingers in that area and then transfer it across to your page, you can check. So that, make sure you got it the right size. And then there's this curve of the ear, and then the hair kind of coming down, curving around. Obviously, you know, there's this line here, but I'm just going to kind of imagine how the hair would look. So I've got the curve of the ear, the curve of that part of the chin, the line of the neck, this part of the turtleneck coming down, and then there's a lot of black. So I'm going to just pencil that in. There are hairs going across it. I'm going to use an eraser to draw those in later using what's called the lifting out technique. Those of you who've been with me for a while will know what that means. When you lift out, you rub away to reveal the paper underneath, and you can use that technique with charcoal or pastel, soft pastel or graphite pencils. So just putting in that dark now, so I've got quite a defined shape here. And then just to check that I'm getting things correct, I'm going to use my pencil to just measure the, if I do a straight line from the bottom of the chin, I can see where it kind of cuts into the collar and also the hair, and I just want to check that I've got that roughly correct. So I think it's a little bit low, so I'm going to just draw it in a little bit higher and then just rub out. I'm just going to rub out here as well where I've got the kind of like confusion. So remember, you're using your eraser as like a tool. Don't be afraid to use it. Don't think like it means you've made a mistake. It's actually a really useful tool. So I'm going a bit softer with this soft pencil, just coming around to where the chin is. And then I'm just going to go down with some lines of the hair, just getting some of these dark shadows in to really give me a starting point. And back to the rubber again, where that edge has gone a bit funny, so I'm just going to rub it out. You'll find there's a lot of working and reworking. And you're kind of slowly building up. So I'm just following the line of the edge of the cheek up here, and then it sort of goes in and goes out again. So looking for the shape of the curve of the edge of the face. It's sort of curving that way, and then it kind of goes in quite far because of the cheekbones, and then out again, and then in again, and then curving round where the chin is. And also there's quite a lot of distortion in this with the angle of the camera angle, you know, and that was one of the things of Chuck Close's work that we looked at, was the idea of that they are very, very extremely photorealist and correct paintings from photographs, and he doesn't kind of make many changes. He did make a few changes. We looked really closely at the photograph he used of the self-portrait and the actual self-portrait, and noticed that he's made his lips a bit fuller, he's made his eyes a little bit bigger. It's quite flattering to himself. He didn't do the stubble looks neater on the painting, and the cigarette is fatter and more, you know, more detailed. So he did make sort of little changes here and there, but in general he was really just copying the, you know, the photograph, which included kind of any distortion in the lens. So I've got my you know, the curve of the edge of the face, and then what I want to do now is I'm going to use my pencil to measure, so where the bottom of the nose, and you can use a ruler as well if you prefer, which might actually be more accurate. If I put a straight line across my photograph so it touches the bottom edge of the nose, and then try and get it straight so it's not at a funny angle, and then note where does it cut into the bottom of the ear. Well, or the top of the ear I should say, or where does it cut across the ear basically. So I can see that it cuts across, you know, it's like something about here, and then on the other side it's just, there's this little sort of little gap. It's something like, oh, and so I'm going to see that I've got I got my proportions wrong, because if the bottom of the ear is like here, well actually it's not that wrong. So I can use another pencil to sort of sketch in a line very lightly. So that's roughly where the bottom of the nose is, although I'm not sure it's quite right. It's actually higher up. I think what I might have done is got this distance wrong. This is where you start going a bit crazy, because maybe not. No, that's correct. So then actually if I do a line from the bottom of the ear, okay, so that hits the top of the lips. I'm just going to kind of very vaguely sketch in. That's where the top of the lips are. Okay. And then looking at the distance from the bottom of the nose, yeah, that's about right. I can actually do it like this if I measure using my, yeah, maybe so slightly lower. Yeah, there's not much in it. So then this curve of the cheek, because this line, it actually starts to curve out sooner. So I'm just going to adjust that. So these are the kind of things that you're doing. You're constantly kind of measuring stuff against other stuff. I mean, Chuck Close would have used a grid system, but we're doing it a slightly different way today. So so we've got, so where this curves out and back in again is a little bit different, a bit shorter, this distance here. And I can actually, you know, can double check that by measuring it down to where it starts to curve. Yeah, so I measure it. So well, okay, I'm gonna just go with it. So this is roughly the bottom of the nose. Then you're looking at the distance here. It's quite thin, and also you can do things like, if I measure the side of the nostril and take the line down to just intercepts like the edge of the lip. So I'm actually going to draw in the mouth, and this is where I might flatter myself a bit in the way that Chuck Close did and make my mouth a little bit fuller than in reality. So just like very lightly sketching in the basic shape at this point. I'm gonna go in, do all the little detail-y bits a bit later to describe the texture and stuff. I'm just sort of making a note of where it is, putting in a little bit of depth. But I'm going to go back in to add all the kind of detail and the shading and all that kind of thing. So got that, comes out a little bit and goes like this. So this is actually quite a lot thinner. I'm going to bring it in a little bit. So that chin I got that wrong. So, you know, don't be afraid of changing it when you discover, if you discover you've done something wrong. And I can just check the size of the mouth. Oh, well, mine's a lot bigger. Well, oh, not that much bigger. So let's try again. Yeah, I've done mine a bit bigger than the real mouth, but that's because I'm using my artistic license and I'm flattering myself to make my lips bigger than they are. So just kind of rubbing out all the time, constantly making changes is how you get, one way of getting accuracy. Keep kind of measuring, changing, but being aware at the same time that you can, you know, change it deliberately to flatter yourself as well. Kind of leave things a certain way, which might be a bit unrealistic or so it's starting to take shape a little bit. Now I'm going to tackle the nose. If I take a pencil line up from the in between the lips, you get to the, you know, the middle of the nose. So I'm just going to make a little mark. So that's where that is. And then I'm looking at the shapes. So the shapes of the nostrils. It's got a little pointy bit, and then it's like a little circular bit. And then there's a curve, a little curve, and then a straight line, and then pointy bit sort of, and then it curves up. And this angle you could get by just transferring it across. So make sure you're getting the angle right that way, and then it kind of goes more straight. So you can use either a ruler or your pencil to help you get the shape of the nose. And I'm going to rub this line out now because I know where the nose and the mouth are going. So just rubbing that out so it doesn't interfere with the rest of my, I'm using a 6B by the way. So you've got this little sort of line of shadow which comes up there, and then this little line there, and then this other nostril. So that's like a little, like an inverted teardrop shape. And things like you can measure, you know, so this nostril is slightly higher than this one. Looks a bit weird, but it's at an angle like that. So I've got that about right. So I'm just going to go for it with the shadowy, the dark nostril. Stick the nostril in. Okay. And then you've got the side of the nose coming up. Now you can even, if you want to be that accurate, you can kind of take a line down, see where it intercepts the edge of the mouth, just to make sure, you know, where does that edge of that nostril intercept the mouth. It's quite, yeah, might make the mouth a bit longer rather than the change that. So that, and then you could get the height of it by seeing where it cuts in. Actually needs to be a bit higher up. And then there's this little shadowy bit, comes down like that. Okay, and then, so we've kind of got some of the basics in. And what I'm going to do now is tackle the glasses, because once I've put them in, they're quite, you know, they're quite dramatic and pronounced. I've got the kind of arch of the nose where they sit, and then coming round, and then I'm looking at this shape here, this sort of triangle. So how the glasses intersect, and you would think they would sit right onto my nose, but they don't. There's a little gap which is about that big. So just drawing the curve of that round as it comes down, and then back up. I might exaggerate the size of these glasses, so I'm not really worrying about the accuracy too much at this point. So a nice kind of sort of bold line round them, and then a curve out. Oof. That's so hard, breaking my pencil. It curves out. Okay, and then there is this line where the glasses go into your behind your ear, but then that's obscured by hair. So you've got this hairiness. We're going to work on the hair. We'll work on all the textures a bit later, but just put the basics in now. Then looking at this shape, so this triangular shape, seeing the distance between the edge of the glasses and the curve of the hair. It's about that sort of size coming around. Then, you know, you could say, okay, that this little triangular shape of the ear, the bottom of it intersects the nose. So it's, oh yeah, got these a bit wrong. But never mind. Okay, I'm just going to go with it. So that, I mean, if you really want it to be accurate, you could rub it all out, or you know, adjust that is coming lower, a bit lower down, you know. So here, if you put a straight line across for the bridge of the nose, that intersects the, yeah. So the glasses want to be lower. I'm gonna, if we're trying to go for accuracy, that's the point of today. So let's make changes and adjustments. Because I got it slightly wrong. So, okay, so and then it hugs the side of my nose here, kind of goes around like this, back up. And the way of drawing, one way of drawing curves is that you can you just do more than one. You're going to do it over and over again, and then you go with the one that you're happiest with. So, you know, keep lifting your pencil off the paper. Don't normally advise that. I normally advise doing it all in one line, but when you're drawing curves, it can be useful. You're sort of stroking the paper with these curvy lines. So okay, and we've got the kind of edge of the nostril, just drawing things in softly at the moment, just to kind of get things placed on the page. Okay, so coming across, I've got the curve of the glasses. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to a mechanical pencil at this point, because I'm going to start doing a bit on the hair. And the point of mechanical pencils is that they are you can have precision with the thickness of the lead in the pencil or the graphite. So if you want a very, very thin line and you want, you know, accuracy and detail of getting the how thin the line is, you can use a thinner. They only go down to, I think it's 0.3, which is this one, which if I focus pen, see how fine that is. You can see my fingerprint. Very, very fine. So I'm going to use that to draw some of these fine hairs coming around at this point. Just to kind of get a bit of detail in. I mean, we're going to do a lot more of this sort of thing, but I just thought I'd put some in. Oops. Now, just to kind of get it happening. So, oh, this rubber's not very clean. I advise you use a clean rubber if you're rubbing out, because otherwise you're going to get smudging, which you might want or you might not. So it's coming up the edge of the forehead now. What I want to do before I start tackling this forehead area is measure the distance from the top of the glasses to the top of the head, or the top of the forehead, as compared to this distance here. So it's almost exactly the same as from the top of the lip to the top of the nose. So if I take that as my measurement, top of the lip to the top of the nose, top of the glasses to the top of the head, so I know where roughly to put my hairline. So what I'm going to do as well is rub out my initial drawing of the top of the head, because I know it's going to change. Okay, so I've still got my 0.3, and I'm just going to, oops, if I can, it'll let me. So I'm just going to draw in these little hairs going up, and then working out where this parting is. So it comes down just beyond the edge of the lips. So it's about there. Because this is quite a nice little sort of springy bit, springy bit of hair coming up. Just drawing in all these little hairs, kind of very fine. Now, I don't know how I've managed to mess up this. I think maybe I've got this distance wrong, because now it suddenly seems like, whoops, what am I doing? I'm going to pause it while I sort out my camera, one sec. Okay, sorry about that. So what I think has happened is I think this line is too low, because I think the actual glasses kind of are more curved. So I'm just going to measure this distance here and compare it to, say, the distance. So it's actually the same as the nose. So yeah, so it wants to come up quite a lot higher than that. So bringing this up. And this is actually a lot thicker than what I've got on my drawing. So the line of the glasses is more curved across the top, and it's higher up, so I'm just going to draw that in. And also it's the kind of thing you could exaggerate. So we saw in the Chuck Close portrait how he, you know, he made his eyes a little bit bigger and clearer. So I might make mine a bit bigger by make the glasses a bit bigger. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then that comes down like that. Quite a lot more space on the inside of the glasses. So this is already looking a bit better. So you're constantly kind of readjusting. I'm actually going to use this black eraser. I'm just going to try it out because I think it's a bit more, yeah, it's a little bit harsher or a little bit stronger than the other one. So it's not often we do. I'm going to switch to a slightly stronger and thicker mechanical pencil. It's not often that we do just pure drawing in the Exploring Creativity, which is partly why I chose it, because it's quite a nice thing to try out, and it's quite relaxing really when you just working and reworking. See where the yeah, that's in line with the top of the lip. So that's in line with the, that is correct. That part, and it goes up like that. This is where you might, so you might, I mean, obviously with Chuck Close, he was using airbrushes. And we worked out that we think he used a lot of white, some white. So this is where kind of at the end, if you wanted, you could go over with white gouache, something like that, to really, you know, rework the highlights, get those really fine lines of hair, which if there's time I will do. We've got 45 minutes left. So where I've done the edge of the glasses, I need to rub out all that incorrect stuff. Now this is looking more, this is looking better, I think. So I'm going to switch to I've got a 9B, which is the softest pencil up, but I think, I don't know if it goes up to 10. I think it does actually. It's the softest one I've got anyway. So, and I'm just gonna go across, put some darks in. So for example, this part of the glasses, so these glasses are very dark. They're actually not black, they're tortoiseshell, but you can't see that on the photograph. Didn't get that level of detail. So just looking at things like the thickness of the edge, top edge of the glasses, coming right across. Not many highlights on it, quite dark, so I'm just going right across. And then where it curves around, and this is all in dark shadows. I'm just filling it in with my lovely 9B. And then coming down to the bottom edge. Just going to put it all in dark. Oops. Okay. And there is a little bit of highlight there. A little bit of highlight here. So just drawing those bits in. And then working out the curve here, how thick it goes this side, not that thick. A little bit of highlight along there. So I need to rub out a lot of this. And then it does go quite far out here. And then there's this sharp highlight along the top edge. I'm leaving that white as it comes around. And then there's a little bit of highlight, but it's not a full highlight, it's kind of shadowy a bit, but the shape of the light catching the glass is there. So got this happening. And then, so looking at this curve of the glass, it comes around, this is quite dark here, the highlight stops around there. And then curves up to here. So just filling in all that black colour. And then the black of the arm of the glass going back into the hair. Bit of shadow there. And a bit of shadow this side of it as well. Okay, so I've now got my glasses. And now it's difficult, this area here, I think I'm going to tackle that. So we've got where the curve of the cheek goes. It's actually, I've done it way too wide, I think, because it's actually only the same width. Oh no, that's correct. How weird, it looks different. So it's roughly the width of the nose from here to this. It's a bit far, so I'm just going to bring it in a little bit more. Just, you're constantly just changing things and reworking things all the time when you're doing this kind of drawing, and just don't be afraid of that. Nothing wrong with making changes. It's actually like mistakes you learn from, in theory at least. Right, so that's the cheekbone coming in. And so then you've got this bit where you have the refraction, or whatever it's called, of the glass. So where you would follow the curve of the cheekbone straight up, it actually turns into hair inside the glass because of the refraction happening. So notice that the cheekbone isn't a continuous line going up, it's actually kind of, there's a gap. So there's this little bit of the curve of the cheek, and then there's this line of the arm of the glasses. You could find out what angle it is by putting, you can't really see it that clearly on here, but putting the, I maybe try and focus that bit better, slightly better. If you put your pencil against the edge of it and bring it across, and then you can use a different pencil. I keep bashing my, not the right way around. Let's do that again. So putting your pencil along the edge of the arm of the glasses, and then using another pencil, and then above, it's the same thing, getting it roughly about, well, it's a bit thicker than that. So that's how you can do that angle, get that right. By, you can use a ruler as well if you prefer. Actually, probably better. So I've got that in. I can work out, you know, where, how far it goes, how deep it goes by doing a plumb line, a vertical line from the edge of the face down and seeing how it intersects about here. So yeah, I've got it roughly correct. So curves out again, filling that in dark. Okay, keep using the wrong one. It's a 9B. I wanted really. Oh, and I've missed out. Like, I've missed out this rim, this highlight of the rim of the edge of the glasses. So what I'm going to do is use one of the end, you know, this eraser, which is the end of the on the end of the mechanical pencil. It's a little bit more accurate. I've actually got somewhere. I've got a battery powered eraser. I'm not sure where it is. Yeah, that would be possibly quite a good thing to use for this. Anyway, so this goes around like this, and then around like this. Okay. Like that, right, so I feel like I'm getting somewhere now. It's actually a lot smaller. Highlight. Quite a lot of dark here. And this is the thing, if there's time at the end, I'll be accentuating these highlights with white gouache just to lift them a bit, because everything's getting a little bit smudgy. The erasers aren't quite clean enough, you know, plus I've got graphite on my hand and I'm not using a mile stick to lift my hand up off the page. It's a little bit imprecise, kind of. Anyway, so right, got that there. So next thing is what I think I'll do is I'll just carry on with the hairline, just to get that out of the way. I'm just doing the hairs coming along, using my contour hatching lines to emphasize the curvature of the hair as it comes across, and just work out, so it looks a bit like a hedgehog. Just want to work out where it comes in. There isn't, oh, there is a little bit of refraction here too. So the line of the face as it exits the glasses is coming inwards a little bit. So that actually makes more sense like that. So just following the line of the forehead. And I'll put a little bit more depth and tone and stuff in later, but I just want to make sure I've got, and then I'm going to put the line of this top, you know, this kind of bit of hair that's kind of swinging down across. Just going to bring that down like this. So like so. Oopsie. There we go. So then it goes from coming across to coming upwards. And some lines of hair here, lines of hair here. And getting a bit dark here, and then here there's this nice curve of the hair going like that. And it does get a bit disheveled. I don't know what I was thinking. Did I brush my hair before I took this photo? So here we go, and there's going to be lots of shadow. I'll put it in with a darker pencil, so I'm loosening up a little bit as I get out this way, and then it kind of curves across like this a bit, kind of all gets quite disheveled-y, a little bit messy, not that terribly well groomed. Anyway, so to describe that, I'm loosening up a bit and working a bit quicker now. Some flicky bits up here and here. Okay, so pretty happy with the hair thing. Next, what I want to do is, I guess, put in some eyebrows. So my eyebrows stick out over the top of my glasses. And so what I'm going to do is look at where they start. So start where this highlight is, which is about here. So I'm just going to put in, I might exaggerate them a bit because I do quite like having big eyebrows. Although I know they need tidying up. Let's go to the beauty salon and get them tidied up. So there we are, bit of spiky bushy eyebrow thing happening here. Oh, there's a rogue one sticking out on it. Oh, goodness me, terribly unkempt. Okay, so we've got the, you know, getting down to the nitty gritty now. I'm going to go back to my 9B, and I'm just going to put in this little shadow that's coming down here, and then I'm going to look at this reflection, this little reflection here in the glasses, because that's quite a crucial measuring tool for what's happening. So it's kind of like this, like a triangle with a curvy edge, and then there's the curve of the shadowy bit underneath. That's another shape, and then the line of my eye comes out from there. Oh, now this is where I must have got my, I'm going to have to exaggerate the size of my eye, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So coming out like this, and then there's quite a lot of shadow. I'm just very lightly using my 9B to just, I'll go into more detail with it a bit later, but I'm just putting in a bit of smooth shadow. I'll use a blending stick as well later. But so this line of the eye comes down like this, and then we've got the inner bit of the eye, which is a little curvy bit, and then it comes up. Oh, I've got quite big eye lids, a little bit bigger than that. I'll just rub that out to try and get the shape. When you're, you know, doing portraiture, the thing is, it's trying to get a likeness is about the shapes, really. That's the thing. And you know, how big is someone's eyelid? How big is the actual eye? What shape is the eye? I mean, I've exaggerated mine and making my eyes bigger because I'm vain, but you know, making the eyebrows, the eyelids a bit bigger. So coming across here, you know, then it kind of does this, curves down, and then, you know, you've got your little eyelashes coming off, and I'm going to exaggerate them too because I should have put mascara on for this photo. So I'm having a bit of fun with making myself look a bit prettier than I do in this photo in the drawing. I just want to kind of enhance my best features. So then it curves up a bit, and then it curves down again. And then we have this bit of the, you know, if you think you might be anemic, you pull your eye down and have a look at this. I don't know I should know the name of it. This part of your eye that is in between, it's on the inside. It should be red and not kind of very pale. So that's coming. So we need to get that in, how it looks on here. Starting not to look like me very much. And then we've got the edge of the I've made that far too big, but I think it's because I've exaggerated everything. So then the iris, and then things like looking at this distance here, you know, what's going on there. That's kind of all right. Needs to come this way a bit. I think I'm going to make that a bit lower down. And then putting the pupil in here, then you've got also, I'll go into that a bit later with getting a bit more detail in there, but it's kind of all right. Got a bit of shadow. I'm going to put, because the whites of the eye, you know, you think, oh, they're white, but actually they can be in quite a lot of shadow. So just going to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use different grades of pencil to try and get some of the shadings. I'm going to go over the whole thing with a 2H just to get that mid-tone down. And then I'm going to lift out using my mechanical pencil rubber across the top of where the pupil of the eye is. And then I'm going to use a 6B, which I'm going to sharpen to do the, I want to make the pupil, it looks a bit of a funny shape, so I'm just going to make it rounder. And then make this edge darker. And then kind of making it darker where it's dark. It's a bit dark up here, using this 6B to sort of put in some of the shadowiness. And I'm varying the pressure of it. So if I press really hard, it gives it a dark tone, but I want to keep this area is more smudgy. There's a bit of, I'm going to lift out a bit more just across here because it's got these highlights here. And so, yeah, I've got there a little bit. And I'm going to use a blending stick. Now this one's been used before, so it's quite grimy. Just going to see how that works on here. Try and get some of it off before I start using it because of it. Anyway, and so gently smudging around. So that just gives it a bit more softness. Then I've got this shadow coming down here. I'm pressing very lightly to get that to happen. There's an edge along here. And around here. Okay, and then it's quite dark across this side. Actually, that I'm going to go back in with my rubber because this is a bit higher up. It's a bit more, this line. I have a bit of a larger, because I've exaggerated the shape of my eyes as well. Where did I put the 6B? So I'm just going to, oh, that really cuts into that highlight there. It's actually a little bit higher up. So around there, then some dark stuff happening here. A little bit of dark shadow here. You can even see the line of the, got bifocals on. So I'm just going to put that in very gently because they will cause a bit of shadow or something funny happening along here. So it's all about the amount of pressure you put on your pencil as you're working. So if you're pressing really lightly, you're going to get a paler tone. And if you press hard, you know, you get a lot of shadow. So where it goes darker, press harder. So here it's quite dark. Okay, and then actually up here there's a bit of dark. There's a bit of a line coming there. It's also all about breaking it down to shape. I don't know if you noticed that. Seems to be what I'm doing a lot in this demo, is really looking for the shapes of the highlights, or the, you know. Now I can't escape a few wrinkles because I am 52 years old. So let's get some of those in. A little bit of wrinkliness happening on here. And okay, so I'm going to leave that for now. I might go back to it a little bit. But now the challenging part is drawing the other eye and getting them so that they match. So let's see, they're at an angle. Okay, so if I hold you could use a ruler or your pencil along the bottom edge of the eyes, you can get that angle correct. So I know that the bottom edge of this eye is going to be round about here. Okay, and then using a plumb line from the edge of this eye down in a straight line, I can see that the edge of this eye intercepts out here in the lips. So if I do this, oh, that's completely wrong. I think I might need to make my my mouth longer. Yeah. Actually, let's have a look at this distance. So if I measure the distance of the edge of the lip to the cheek, and then measure it, it's the same as the nose. So, whoops, that was correct, but it's like there's something off with the glasses. Anyway, never mind. Well, in that case, I'm not going to do it that way. What I'm going to do is look at this gap here. So this gap is something about like that. Also making sure they line up, getting the angle of that correct. So yeah, it's about here. Okay, and then so the line of this eye, I mean, one of my eyes is bigger than the other. This one is bigger. I'm just going to do the line of the eye, and then it does curve down and it curves back up. And there's a lot more highlight happening on this eye. So in a way that makes things easier, and you can actually see, because I was looking out the window when I took this photo, so you can actually see the shapes of the landscape if you look really closely. So I'm just going to pop that in. So I've got shadow happening along here, around here, and then you can actually see the little edge of the glasses coming down but because it's there's quite a lot of highlight, more highlight on this side. And then so that comes like that. There's this big line of highlight cutting right across the eye. We can see the buildings reflecting from the landscape outside. So because of the reflection, the top of the eye is a little bit distorted. So I'm just going to get a little bit of softness in. You can't see any of my eyelashes or anything like that. And then there's this quite sharp line. Now let's check the angle. Got it correct roughly. Bit darker here as it comes in, it comes round. You can see more of the detail of the little tear ducty bit there. And then now I'm going to use my 0.7 mechanical pencil to get these eyelashes in because they're finer, the ones on the bottom. In fact, I didn't put any in on the bottom of mine. I'm just going to pop some in because I have got some there. Oops. Okay. And again, I'm going to exaggerate, make them a little bit longer because I can. So, oops, I press it too hard. So coming round like this. Okay, so they got the thingy bob, and then bringing the edge of the iris, pressing hard where it's dark, it's quite dark. Looking at this gap here, you know, there's a little bit of shadow there, but not as much as on not as much as on the other side. And then a little bit of shadow here. Okay, and then there's this highlight, similar highlight to what's happening on the other side. So I'll draw that in, and then I can just do what I did before, where I'm actually using, yeah, same 6B, drawing, you know, where it's pressing hard, where it's darker, and pressing less hard where it's more of a mid-tone. But this whole eyeball iris of this eye is darker in general. It's darker, there's less, there are fewer highlights, and also because of this big highlight bang across there, it's you can't fully see it. So let's bring that around. Now, are there any wrinkles? There are some. Just one little one there, and then a little bit of tone. So I'm hardly pressing at all on this pencil, bringing it around just to kind of indicate a little bit of tone that comes up. I'm actually going to go for a harder pencil. I'm going to go for 2.8 because that is coming up a bit too dark. So just going over it. Okay, so I've got the accuracy, I think, some of the accuracy. So I'll do this for another like 5 minutes. And then I'll check in with everyone in the class. All I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go around and add tone, you know, so where I see shadowy tone, I'm using my 2H because it's a light graphite, and if I get to a darker bit, I'll put in some darker tones with a darker pencil. But I'm just going to first of all go around putting in the shapes of the tones with my 2H. And then when you get to the mouth, things like, I'm actually going to switch back to a 6B, got the edge of the lips coming along here, a bit of shadow, then there's this kind of line here where my mouth is shrinking because of my age, and then up. It's a tragedy, such a tragedy. And then you've got, you know, this nice kind of texture, bit of lines. That's actually okay. I'm gonna shamelessly exaggerate the size of my mouth and make it bigger. I'm shamelessly flattering myself on this. So bringing it around the lines, we've got some straight lines going up and down. Bit of tone where the lips go in. Remember, with the lips, the bottom lip is always more highlighted than the top lip because it protrudes more into the light. So it's always got more highlights than the bottom one. So all the way across. And then hang on, let's just finish off a little bit of this. Maybe some of these lines of the kind of scaly scaly texture of my lips showing here. So wasn't wearing lipstick either. No lipstick, no mascara. And so coming around a bit. So now I'm going to go back to my 2H. Ooh, just gonna got that shape slightly wrong with that chin. I think it's a bit more, a bit bigger, big chin. Right, so just gonna go back to my 2H and continue with some of these tones. And down, a bit of a wrinkle, a frown line. Oh yeah, and I need to do the, I'm just going to put some of these wrinkles in my forehead. We are going for photorealism, so let's be honest, folks. Lines, few lines. And then it's just a question of filling in the tones using your, I mean, I'm going to do it with my 2H, and then I'm going to go back over where there are darker tones with my 6B. That's about it really, and then you might use your blending stick to kind of blend it all a bit, make it a bit softer if you wanted. And also you might, you know, go over the hair with more texture, put more hairs in with your mechanical pencil. And so I think I'm going to stop it there because it's just going to be all about adding more tone or value really at this point, and any little highlights that you want to lift out with your rubber, or once you finish the whole thing you might go over with your with some white gouache just to emphasize where there are some highlights. Things like the bottom of the chin, you see the highlight of the light shining up, catching the edge of it there. So I'm going to come back into the room. Oh, Aisha's come back. So I'm going to stop the video there. So I hope that was kind of helpful. I'm pleased with my drawing because it looks much prettier than my photograph of me. I've managed to yeah, emphasize my best features. And I will see you next time. For those watching the video, thank you for joining me, and I hope that was a help of how to capture realism using graphite pencil.